Now, this video is the secret sauce when it comes to understanding and managing anxiety. So buckle up, it's time to take a deep dive and take a look at the animals in your brain, to take a closer look at how the anxiety response works in your body when you experience a trigger. Remember the amygdala, your internal alarm system? Well, think of this as your own personal guard dog, alert at all times to warn you of incoming danger. Well, it's more of an excited and untrained puppy for most of us, most of the time. Barking away at the most inconvenient times, driving us crazy when the postman walks past the window. And causing absolute chaos. If left untrained, your guard dog will absolutely take over and control your life, simply by thinking it's doing a great thing and keeping you safe. Now, there are two more important parts to your brain. Let's take a look at them. First of all, let's look at the hippocampus. Your elephant. This is your storage vault. Your internal hard drive. This is where all of your experience since birth are stored, and there is a wealth of evidence to suggest that memories from being in utero are also stored there. Imagine that. All of your memories are stored inside of you. The majority of this data is kept filed away in your internal filing cabinet by your helpful elephant, generalised into categories that make sense to you in line with your particular values, experiences and worldview. You are not consciously aware of most of this information. If you were, your head would need to be the size of a football field. Most of the data from your past is stored subconsciously. This means that we are unaware of it as we go about our daily lives. Now let's talk about the third part of the brain that we're going to cover today, the prefrontal cortex. This is your wise old owl. Now, this guy is the logic, reasoning and language part of your brain. It's responsible for critical thinking, discernment and reasoning. The prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until we are around 24 years old. This explains why children, and particularly teenagers and young adults, have such a hard time communicating their needs and managing their emotions. Now, when we are in rest and digest mode, all of our animals work together and communicate effectively. But when a trigger crosses our radar, our guard dog jumps to attention and barks to warn us of the incoming danger, just like a good guard dog should do, right? Well, yes and no. If there's a real and present danger, then this response could indeed save your life. But it is really only necessary and useful if there is actually a life or death situation. Otherwise, it's just overwhelming and harmful. As soon as the alarm is sounded, an immediate chain reaction is set in motion, with a surge of adrenaline and cortisol released into your bloodstream in order to deal with the incoming threat. At this point, the brain calculates that it hasn't got time to call a team meeting with the elephant and the wise old owl. There isn't time to assess and discern whether there's an actual threat or not when you're about to be eaten by a bear. So it just goes into full-on action, and the only thing your guard dog knows how to do in order to keep you safe is to let this guy out of his cage. The big guy, your ape. Now, if you've read books about the monkey mind, such as The Chimp Paradox by Professor Steve Peters, you will know that your ape only knows how to do three things: fight, flight, or freeze. These are the responses that have been passed down from our ancestors in order to keep us safe in life or death situations. What they aren't designed for, or in any way useful for, is when Debbie from accounts doesn't like your spreadsheets. Or someone posts something that you don't like on social media. Or when you're presented with the opportunity to experience something new or different. When our ape is released, the shutters come down on our filing cabinet, the elephant locks itself in the cupboard, and the owl flies out of the window. We lose all contact with the parts of ourselves that would help us to realise that there really is no threat, and we could respond in a much more efficient, calmer and healthier way. What we do is become aggressive and shout, scream or fight in a desperate attempt to keep ourselves safe from the incoming threat. Maybe we feel the desperate need to get out of the room or the situation, either exiting with the flourish of a slammed door or sneaking off as quietly as possible in secret to find a safe place to withdraw and hide. Sometimes our brains might completely trip out and send us into freeze mode, where we may forget the words to a presentation or performance, or end up stood stock still and unable to function, completely terrorised and locked in our minds with an inability to take action. Maybe we become so affected by our guard dog that we stop doing things altogether, because it simply won't stop barking and nothing feels safe. These are all responses that are supposed to ensure our survival as a species and keep us out of harm's way. Mighty inconvenient when you're trying to live your best life and have awesome experiences. We need to train our guard dog to know when there is a real danger and not just a perceived danger that pattern matches back to one of the past memories that are stored away in our filing cabinet. This means better communication with our elephant and our wise old owl so that we can unlock some of the stuck stuff from our past that ignites the trigger response subconsciously, but really isn't necessary. We're going to look in more detail at this with some more knowledge around what happens between your brain and your body, how you can spot it and intercept. We will look at strategies and tools that will help you spot your triggers early and flip the switch back before the ape gets let out of its cage. If you love this topic and would like to dive even deeper, my coaching programs are the perfect way to join me as we discover the brand new neuroscience, as well as some psychotherapy tools and techniques that really help to break through into the operating system and change the programming for good. Now let's move on to the next activity and start to train that guard dog.